All right, friends, welcome. It is week 4, lecture 2. We are cruising. And just a little bit of housekeeping before we get going. We've got discussion questions due by Sunday. I tell you guys that 4 days a week. You get an email and then you get this every class. So know that discussion questions are due. We got 3 core assignments. You have Axios, Pokemon API. You have routing practice and then Faker API. Want to let you know tomorrow we are having Gray's Hour. Just as a reminder, Gray's Hour is on Thursdays for office hour. Gray comes in and does an assignment and has something sort of prepared for you guys. So tomorrow Gray is doing to-do list in Gray's Hour. I don't know exactly, want to make sure, Gray, correct me if I'm wrong, if you're back, but usually what she does is it becomes, it's done, but then there's some errors and it's a way to kind of problem solve. And as a group, everybody problem solves and figures out the error. And I love it because what it does is it makes you address errors, figure out, okay, because this error, what is it saying? How do we go address that? So it's a really valuable time. And Gray, again, not every TA does this. So Gray is awesome for doing that.
Yep.
I'll also let you know that on our class sheet, I have added in Gray's Hour recordings. And so this is just a playlist of all of the recordings for Gray. So if there's study hour or there's tab boxerator, tomorrow to-do list will go here. We'll also link it in the office hour as well. So like Gray's office hour. This is just a link to that playlist. So just want to let you guys know that it is there now, which is cool. Let us know if you have any questions on that. And just as a reminder, I'll be sending out a survey tomorrow morning. Wow. Oops, sorry. I'll be sending out a survey tomorrow morning. It's just our class survey. That's just really an indication of how Gray and I are doing, how you are faring. If there's anything, and again, I read every single one of these. And if there's anything I can do to help your learning, then this is a great way for you to communicate that. Or if there's things that I'm doing well that you want me to continue in the back half of this 4 weeks, also a great way to communicate that. It's really helpful for us, transparently, it's our KPIs and how we're doing. And that's how our bosses see how we're doing and a way that we can indicate that. So if you guys could do that, that'd be amazing. It'd be helpful. I'll send you out an email and then I will put it in Discord as well. Again, it's just super helpful to have the data. Okay, any questions on housekeeping? Anything you guys need to talk about before we get started? Going once, going twice. Okay. Yesterday was a really packed day. I think it's probably, I was reflecting on it today. I think it was probably the most packed class we've had, just 2 big concepts, and we just went for it, right? And I think Jennifer said it well at the end, was like, hey, the last 10 minutes, we just did a lot. And I recognize that. And we were going to do Mongoose and we were going to go straight into today. We were going to go straight into Express and Node and all this stuff. But I just sort of was looking at our calendar and realized that we don't need to do Mongoose and MongoDB on Thursday. We liked it and it was better than like this CRUD application that we were going to build, but it's not necessary. And I would hate for us, because this is really important for you to understand routing. I would hate for us to move forward and just say like, oh, figure it out, because it was a lot of material really quickly. And so I want to make sure I take the time to help you guys understand routing, us have some practice with routing, us do some examples with routing, use params, introducing use params, link, and use navigate. So that way we have access to that and we can use that. And we really have a good understanding versus just our 15 to 20 minute speed run that we did yesterday. So want to make sure that you guys are prepared. And again, the whole point of doing MongoDB and Mongoose was to get rid of doing like this CRUD and state thing that you're never going to use. But then the reality is you don't have Mongo stuff until later. Right. And like your readings and stuff aren't until next week. So we're just going to move that to next week. So today, what we're going to do is we're going to do routing continued. I'm going to kind of do a recap of what we did yesterday with routing. We'll talk a little bit about Axios for like a hot second, but really just routing is going to be the most important thing. We're going to introduce use navigate, link, and use params. Tomorrow, we will go into Express and MongoDB. So let me just put that here. or not MongoDB. Sorry, a node. So this is our backend. So we're going to talk about backend. We're going to set it up. There's a lot of folders that we have to do. We're going to introduce what is the backend, why do we use the backend, how does the front end communicate to the backend. We're going to get to all that. So tomorrow is going to be sort of an introductory to Express in Node, and we're just going to familiarize ourselves with this. I'm going to encourage you guys to, over the weekend, really start playing with the backend. We're going to build on that because, again, we're building into week 5. MongoDB is not a huge concept. So it'll be maybe a class, and then the rest of these 2 lectures, or really this one, we will kind of work more with Express, introduce MongoDB and Mongoose, and then we're going to just work on building a backend. And so we're really going to build kind of what we need to get prepared for the class. And then we're going to spend some time doing CRUD, building this backend. And then that way for week 6, all you're doing is connecting that backend that we build to the front end that we build. So that way you have a fully functioning belt exam prep course. And it is very similar to the belt exam. Not some of the black belt stuff. I try to, let you guys, the idea about black belt is you can go out and get some things and get some knowledge. But I try to really guide you to where you guys know kind of what you're doing and what to expect, right? So, and I'll have like a wireframe and everything for next week, but just want to let you guys know that's where we're going. So today we are going to just continue with routing, talk about routing, go through routing, get some practice with it, get some practice with use navigate, link, and use params there. So any questions on kind of the switch, the change, where we're going? Okay, great. Again, I just wanted to make sure that you guys were not overwhelmed because I already know that React is a little bit challenging, and it can be challenging. And then yesterday we just introduced 2 huge concepts. So we don't need to put our foot on the gas right now because we have plenty of time. So we're okay. We're not late. We're going to be a-okay. So, okay. We talked about Axios and use effect yesterday. I just want to look at these really in the platform because I still see a lot of people using fetch, which is fine. You can do either one, whichever one makes sense to you. Axios is going to be a little bit easier. And again, remembering that, or the reasoning being that when fetch goes and this makes a request, and the same sort of thing, by default, it's going to be a get request. When fetch makes a request, it gives you a response, but in order for us to do something with that, we have to JSONify or do .json to handle that. And if we wanted to read it and do something with it, we'll need to do that, where Axios automatically gives that back prepackaged and all good to go. So it is a little bit of an easier step. Just kind of going through what you have to do with Axios is you have to install it. And it's just a package that'll do everything for us, right? In the same way that we don't have to know under the hood what map is doing. It's just a method that we can use to iterate through and apply some sort of functionality, right? Same idea. We don't have to know the inner workings of Axios. We don't have to know the code behind Axios, what it's doing. Not a bad thing to get to know it if you wanted. You don't have to, right? In order to use it. We just call Axios. We say what type of request we're making. We haven't gotten to HTTP verbs. We will when we start dealing with our backend and we're dealing with creating CRUD within MongoDB. But just knowing that this is a GET request. Great question, Jennifer. We install this within our client. So this is all still front end. So yes, it's not global. It is just within our client. And the reason we want to do that is, remember that when we create this client, we get this JSON package, and I haven't done it yet. So I'll install it so we can see. But we get this JSON package, and this tells any of our users, let's say we get rid of our node modules, right? But a user wants to kind of fork our code and practice and build with it. Well, this is kind of the blueprint, right? Of what do they need to have access. So we want to make sure that we're not just doing something global. We want to make sure that we are doing something local. So I am going to do that. I'm going to, let me make this a little bit bigger for you. I'm going to CD into my client because that's what the folder that I'm doing. And then I'm going to say npm install. Now I need to install 2 things. I need to install Axios, and we looked at React Router DOM. Now, just want to let you guys know, you can do something like this, Axios space React router DOM, and you can just do both in one line as long as there's a space between. You can do as many as you want. And then now this will run this instead of having to say npm install Axios, npm install React Router DOM. You can just do that in one. So now if I come here, I should see React Router DOM and I see Axios. Cool. Works perfectly fine. Now it's in our folder. If we ever delete our node modules, we can just do npm I and this will be done. Speaking of deleting node modules, Gray has been going through and grading some assignments. So you guys have probably gotten some feedback. And if you haven't, it's coming. It makes our lives very, 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 very easy if you do two little things. Well, one's a little bit more complicated, but it will really help. And we can do another office hour on it. One is make sure when you are uploading your assignment, please, 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 please delete your node modules. We don't need them. You don't need them after your assignment's done. We can always download them ourselves. So please delete your node modules. Second thing is if you post to GitHub versus zipping up a file, it makes our life exponentially easier. The whole reason is we can look at your code, boom, 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 you're good. Compared to if you do it, and especially if you zip up your file and put node modules in, we have to download it. It takes quite a long time to download. Then once we download it, we have to do npm. Either we have to do npmi or we don't have to if you've kept them, but we have to make sure, and then we have to run it. And it just makes the whole process quite a bit longer. And so if you guys can do those two things, if you can, I mean, definitely make sure you delete your node modules. Just as a reminder, the way you do that is you go to the folder, you say dash rf node modules. That's removing this folder of node modules. Cool. So now if I look, this folder is gone. But let's say, oops, I now want to run it. You can just say npm install, or Windows, I believe you can say npm I, and it goes, checks my package JSON, says, oh, I need all of this information. And now you see node modules is back. Good to go. So in rm-rf or rm-rf node modules, that will be there. Somebody asked, where will you find feedback? An email would be sent. Now, I let you guys know at the beginning of the stack, we don't grade every assignment. So it is sort of sporadic. It is, as we're going through, there's a ton of you guys. And so not every assignment is going to give feedback. You're not going to get feedback every week. And it also is, if you, it's all like if you turn it in on time. So if you are behind and not turning stuff in when it's due, it's not going to get graded or get feedback. It's not guaranteed to get feedback, but especially if it's late, if you're keeping up with your assignments, then you have an opportunity to get some feedback there from Gray. So cool. So somebody asked, what was the Axios install code? So Axios is just right here in npm install Axios. I just knew that I was going to install React Router as well. So I just added in space React Router DOM. So it's all on the platform here. Just as a reminder, you can do multiple packages if you want. npm Axios space React Router DOM. Say I had another one, I could do space, and we're going to download or add in a bunch of packages on the back end. So that'll be a common practice. Jennifer said, do you always do both together? Nope. Only if you need Axios or if you need React Router DOM, then you can do both together. But it would have worked just fine if I said npm install Axios, npm install React Router DOM. Separate, that's okay. Just showing you guys a shortcut.
For the GitHub, do we just copy and paste the URL to the specific tree of the assignment?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a spot when you're uploading the assignment that says link or folder. And so, yeah, you just get that specific, wherever that folder is on your GitHub, just get that URL and just put that there.
Got it.
Yeah. And then Christian asked a great question. Does your server have to be off before installing Axios? Yes, in order for you to install, you have to kill your server. Cool. So that was Axios. Axios gives us back. Does anybody remember what Axios gives us back? What's this called? Anybody remember? Talked about it yesterday. It's going to give you either resolve or reject. What was that? Yeah, exactly. Ahmed. It's a promise, right? All it does is it gives us a promise. This allows us to do quite a few things. What is it called when it allows while it's running, it allows other things to run? What was that keyword that I used? It's kind of a larger one, but anybody remember? When it allows for multiple things to happen at the same time versus waiting in line. Not threading, Will.
Asynchronous?
Yeah, exactly. Being asynchronous, right? That's allowing us to do multiple things. Great job, guys. So asynchronous code. Now we're going to learn in week 7, async and await and what that looks like. Just knowing right now, this allows asynchronous code. And we saw a wonderful example of that yesterday when we had the Star Wars API that took quite a long time to run, right? And this, what using a promise does, is it allows us to make that request and then go do whatever else we need so that way our user doesn't recognize if it is a request or if there is something else. Our entire website's not bogged down because we're just waiting for that, right? So that's what a JavaScript promise allows. And we get either resolve or reject. Anybody remember what happens if it gets a reject? If it hits this reject, where does it go within my promise?
To the catch.
Yeah, exactly. It goes to my catch. Great job, guys. And then if it is resolved, everything is good to go. It goes where? Yep. Goes to my dot then. Can I have multiple dot thens and multiple dot catches? There's
Yes. Yes.
yes to both or yes to.
Yes to then, because if you have an error, it's just going to happen once.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Right. I can have multiple thens, but I just need one catch because if there ever is an error, then it's just going to go in here. All right. I can have a bunch of dot thens, but then if I get any sort of error, it goes into my catch. Cool. Great job, guys. That was a little test and you guys crushed it. Great job. Cool. So that's Axios. We'll get more practice with it as we are using APIs and we're doing stuff with that. What I want to walk through is our routing. Now we installed React Router, right? React Router DOM. And I just want you to know, if you guys are watching our legacy, and I say legacy in the sense of past cohort videos, there is a point, I think it's around November of 2022. There was another tool, not React Router DOM, it's called Reach Router. And the whole, it's sort of an antiquated tool. And so we've updated that. And so if you do watch some of those videos and you see Reach Router, that's not using the same technology. It's not the same. So I just wanted to make that abundantly clear. But you got to go pretty far back. I think like late 2022, September, October, somewhere around there is when we changed it. So yeah, so we talked about React Router, and this is a way that I can route my user and only show specific things. When my user clicks home, I want to take them just and show just the home component. When I want them to see, we saw Pokemon yesterday. If they want to see Pokemon, it only takes them to Pokemon, right? Because right now we're sort of handcuffed into putting everything within our app JS. So we've installed React Router DOM. What is the next step? If I want to set up some routing, let's say I'm going to have a component. I'm going to call this home.jsx. And then I'm just going to do RAFCE. Oops. And then I'm just going to put, this is fine. It just says home. That's great. Now, what is my next step? I'm going to clear this guy. What is my next step? If I want to start handling some routing, what is my next step?
Import home.
Import home, but I want to import home. Well, yeah, I'm going to import home eventually. Absolutely, Teresa.
Oh, sorry.
Was that Tabitha? Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm absolutely going to import home. So let's do that. Home from home. Cool. Oops. Anybody see my mistake? What did I do?
Shouldn't that be in a component folder?
Absolutely. I forgot my components folder. Whoopsies. Components. And then let's just put that in there.
Oh, sorry to interrupt you. I have been capitalizing my components folder for some reason.
Yeah.
Does that matter?
I
I
don't
mean,
think
it's
so.
still working.
I think you're good as long as the actual component itself is capitalized. Then I think you're fine.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm looking in here. We need to import route and routes, absolutely, from React Router DOM. So let's do that. Now, I said that we could do two things, right? I said that we could there's one more tool that I need. Yeah, Krista, where can browser router also go? We're gonna have it come in our app today just so that I can show you both, but where can it also go? Yeah, our index.js, right? We can put this browser router around and wrap it around this app. So that way we can receive routes, but I just want to show you there's another way we can do that. So I'm going to say browser router. And just so you know, like I'm going to show you this right here. You can say as, so if this is like a long thing and you say as router, all that's saying is, hey, I want to bring in browser router, but when I refer to it in my code, I'm just going to refer to it as router. So it's not that it's breaking. I mean, this could be unicorn. I'm just saying this is what I'm bringing it in as, right? So if I didn't want, let's say we had something, I didn't want to type that, I can bring it in as. This is really popular within like data science. So like pandas. So instead of installing pandas, you just do pandas as PD. So then you just do PD dot, all that stuff. Same thing with NumPy, you do NP. So that's really popular. So you might see quite a bit of imports that say as, and all it is just changing the name. That's it. It's not doing anything different. If it is saying from or from blank import something, that's bringing in an actual package. This just as is just changing the name. So we get rid of it so there's no confusion. But we say route. I don't want switch. I need one more. Routes. Perfect. And I'm gonna actually, yeah, we'll get there in a second. Cool. So where am I gonna do? What is my next step here?
Wrap your div in browser router
Is it my div?
or inside the div rather, sorry.
Inside the div, yeah. I don't know what would have happened. I guess that still would have been the, yeah, that would have been interesting. I'm not sure. So I'm gonna go ahead and close browser router. Perfect. And then now what do I want to do? What's my next step?
You can create a routes component.
Absolutely. So I bring in my routes. And then I don't want this to cheat. So say routes. Oops, sorry. Perfect. And then within this, you guys saw that we are then going to put in my first route, right? And in this case, I'm just saying path. What is the base path right now for this project? Anybody remember? Kind of talked about it yesterday. Not you, Michael, because I know that you might know. Anybody remember what is our base path?
it
When I spin this up, where am I going to?
Localhost 3000.
Absolutely, right? And so when I say just this slash, that's just saying if they go to localhost 3000, that's it. So this path is when my user requests this path, this is what I want to do. I want to put in my element of home. My element, and sorry, and then within my element is my home component. Right? And so what that means is now if I spin this up, PM start, and all spin up means is just get it running. Ooh, there's an error. Babel core. That's right, home. I'm wondering if it's because I deleted my node modules and re-downloaded. I installed node modules. I reinstalled them right here. But Let's do RM dash, let's try it again. So I removed them and then now I'm add them back in PM install. Okay. And then now let's do npm start. Let's try this. Okay. Yep. It was just a weird thing with my, because I had deleted them earlier and then re-downloaded them. Not sure what happened, but you know, worst case scenario, sometimes just re-delete and reinstall. And that's okay. But now we see that we get this home, right? So let's create one more component. What do we want to create today, guys? Anybody have any suggestions? Also, just realized the last couple of classes, I've been talking a lot. And so I'm trying to incorporate, you know, bringing you guys in because it's not fun just sit and listen to somebody. And it's not really, you know, inclusive slash great for learning. So I'm trying to bring you guys in. Anybody know what we want to create today? Any ideas? Just literally anything. You guys are not a shy class. Product page. All right, Christian, what is our product? I know I'm putting you guys on the spot. It's fun. You guys want to build unicorn. Yes, let's go. You know, I live for that. So we'll say unicorn dot JSX. Perfect. REFCE. Also, I wanted to and shaving cream. I know I need that. Well, but we can build a lot of this stuff, right? So we have this. I've got this div of unicorn. I might just put an H1 that says this is the unicorn page. Nice. Sweet. Okay. So we got unicorn. I see a couple other things and I think it's good to build quite a few. So
How did you add the emoji?
does
Does that show up on the page?
I think so, yeah. We should. On mine, because I'm on a Mac, it is control and command
Okay.
is mine, is how I bring those emojis up. I'm not sure exactly how, but yeah, it'll show up on the page. Okay, so I see pizza, love pizza. And then we'll do a shaving cream. So I just think that's funny. I don't know what that means, but we're gonna do it. REFCE. And then, oops. Let's see if by the shaving cream one, Copilot has learned that this is, wow, it already learned, guys. AI, it's insane. Okay, so then now we have, let's see what it does for shaving cream. Shaving cream. Digest. Okay. REFCE. That's so wild that I already learned. I love it. Got a razor. Perfect. Okay. So we've got these three components, right? We've got unicorn, pizza, shaving cream, and I guess four technically because we have home. So now let's go ahead and make a route for each of these. Right. And so now I'm going to say route, and I want this to be path is going to equal, let's say unicorn / unicorn. Right. And then my element is not going to be this. It is going to be unicorn. And then let me close it. Perfect. So now it's going to bring in my unicorn component. Got the same thing, but I'm going to call this pizza. Pizza. And then we got one more. That's going to be shaving cream. And then shaving cream. Perfect. Okay. So now if we go back here, we have home. Now, if I say pizza slash pizza. This is the pizza page. If I say slash unicorn page, and then shaving cream. This is the shaving cream page. So by setting up our routing, however my user goes, or wherever my user goes, or whatever they put in, it allows me to say, okay, if my user is looking for their friends page, then I can put in our component that has that information, right? If they're looking for our pizza page, well, cool, we want to redirect them. We don't want to just call everything within our app.js because then they're seeing all of our components. They have to cipher through. It doesn't really make sense. So this is how we can handle routing. Because if you think about how a normal web page operates, it's all just based off whatever route you go to. If you click on a link, that is what you need to use, right? Or that's where it takes you. And so this routing allows us to dictate what our user is doing and how to do that. Okay. That is the base of kind of what we covered yesterday. Are there any questions on routing?
So would this link to like a nav link, like would the person be able to click on this to get there? Or
Yeah, so that'll be what we're going to get to. So this is just when somebody searches, right?
oh,
When somebody searches, this is what, or when we get a request, we're going to get to link here at the end of this. But basically,
Okay.
when we get to a request, this is what's going to happen is it's going to come here, find my routes and say, hey, is this unicorn? No. Is this unicorn? Yes. Okay, let's go do this. Right, let's bring this in. Yeah, so I'll show you. We're going to use something called link, and it's going to be that. So basically, if in a nav bar, if you hover over something, it's just like an A tag. It's got a little bit of nuancy differences, but it's link, and you just click on it, and then it will take you to wherever you want to go. So if we wanted to link unicorn, then we can do that. Krista, we're not using switch. That was just brought in by Copilot. We don't need, I deleted it. Cool. Now, that's awesome. There's another one that we can do that is a way that we can change routes. So basically, sometimes we want, after something happens, we want to then navigate to our page. So let's think about a form, right? When I submit a friend page or a form on Facebook, sorry, when I'm downloading or logging into Facebook, if anybody ever still uses Facebook, right? Or anything, right? You're logging in anything. When you create your account, it would be terrible to then go back and have to log in. Now, there are some websites that do that and it irks me, but then you have to go back and you log in and it's just terrible, right? So what we can do is use this tool called Use Navigate. That is basically a function that allows us to handle some piece of information or to navigate our user after they've done some certain task. Cool. So here, the way it works is, let's say that we had, let's just take this information. I'm just going to grab this because I don't feel like making an entire form. So we're going to call this component to form.jsx. And then, oh, this is survey. And let's go here. So we're using state in a different way. Now you guys have seen the other ways to use state, but I'm just taking this off of the platform just to make life a little bit easier. We're gonna have a send survey. We're gonna just take this. Cool. So all we have here is we've got this state called use state, obviously, or with name and comment. We've got this use navigate. And what we need is, in order for us to use this, we need to import it from React Router DOM. So I need to come in here because I'm using use state. use state here. And then I also want to import navigate from React router dot or use navigate, sorry. But this is React router DOM. Yeah. React router DOM. And then what we'll do often is say const navigate equals use navigate. Now, what this is doing is this is calling this function and allowing us to now use it whenever we say navigate. Again, if this was unicorn, this would be fine. But obviously we want to use language that makes sense to us and other developers if necessary. And so what this is doing is we're saying, great, we've got this form that's just got a label and an input. And when it changes, it's just changing all the values. We know how to do this, right? This is just a state thing. It's got an input of submit survey. Perfect. Now, what this is doing, let's say we wanted this to go to pizza, is I can use this use navigate to say, hey, when this is done, or when it gets to this function, in this case, this user submits the form, it runs the send survey prevent default, and maybe we'll have some sort of functionality in here that handles our form just like we have. And at the end of this, we're saying, great, now that all of that stuff has been handled, I want you to navigate to a different page. And so what this is going to do is it's going to use navigate. And it's just going to do this part. You don't need to pass in the base route, which is localhost 3000. You just do the slash and where you want to go. And it needs to be a string. And what this will do is it will go to our browser, go to our routes and look for the route we're trying to navigate to. So in this case, if I had, I'm going to bring in a form. Path equals slash form. Element, this is going to be form. Need to import form from components form. Great. So now what this is going to do is I'm going to go to slash form. We have our little form here. Oof, this is rough. But once this is submitted, it navigates me to my pizza page. So it's a way that when our users want to, or we want them to navigate, if there's an error, we want to navigate back, right? If there's certain things that happen, we'll want to handle it and we say, hey, we don't want them to move forward. Let's bring them back or navigate to, or we do want them to move forward, or however, whatever functionality we want. If we want them to go to another page, another component. And when I say page, obviously this is a single page application, meaning if I want to bring in new functionality or new components, then I can use this navigate, and then I just pass in whatever route I want to navigate them to. So no, Cameron, navigate wouldn't. There's another tool. So Cameron asked in chat, would navigate work on an anchor element? No, there's another tool we're going to use called link, and that is how you're going to handle that. So if I wanted to click on my pizza page and create some sort of nav bar, then I can do that.
Can we use navigate instead of defining a variable like const navigate?
No, nope. You need to call this in and run this.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Actually, let's test that. I said that. Let's test that. Let's say I could be incorrect here. No. Yeah, so you cannot. Just gotta bring it in up here. Cool. Great. So it allows us to navigate to our pizza page. Somebody asked, will we be using navigate like session? No, because we're not keeping track of anything. It's just allowing us to say, hey, if there's some errors, instead of moving forward, let's navigate them back to this page, right? Or if there isn't errors when they log in, I want to take them to a dashboard. Let's send them to this route, and then it will go into our app.js, find the correct route, and then load in those elements or those components.
So if you wanted to be annoying, which
Uh-huh.
I don't, but I was just thinking about it. If you went onto your page and you put like a button on all of like on the bottom underneath where it says, this is this page, this is this page, and could you path yourself in a circle repeatedly to all the different pages? Like if you clicked on the pizza button when then it pathed you to like unicorn, and then you clicked on that one and it pathed you to
Oh, sure.
shaving cream, and then you clicked. Okay. And so buttons work just the same as like if you do it on submit, any of the event handlers, right?
Yeah, so we're gonna do, so like you would do like an on click, and then you can
Okay.
you can navigate there. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can also so if you wanted, so if we want to send them back one step, you can just do navigate -1, or if you wanted to move forward, you can do 1. I wouldn't worry about this. It's not necessary. You don't need this because that's not a normal usage anyway. It's just like one of those, like in Python, you can use a negative as an index, and you can't here in JavaScript. So don't worry about this. It's not necessary or what you're doing. Okay. Any other questions about use navigate? Make sure we're going through everything that we need. Let me show you.
I did notice in the link, which I know you're going to go over in a second, but in the link it wasn't a p tag. Does it matter if it's in a p tag or an h tag? It just defines style, right? So
Yeah.
if you wanted to put the link in like a h1 or something, you could.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
It's just link is you can kind of think about it like an A tag. Yeah, you can kind of think about it like an A tag. Okay. So we've talked about how yesterday we talked about how these numbers, right, dictate where we're going, right? If I click on this one, these numbers change to 80, 801.80, and then if I go to here, it's 801.81. Now, obviously, we're not going to build out a route for each possible combination of what is being used, right? And so that's where this idea of use params comes in. And this allows for dynamic routing, meaning that based off of what our user inputs, we take that information, we say, hey, we're expecting them to click on something, and the format to be something like this, where you've got the login.codingdojo.com/m 14, then some number that's going to dictate where they're at, what stack they're in, some other number / some other number that dictates where they're at and where they're wanting to go, and then a last number of the actual lesson that they want, right? And again, we don't have to do every single combination. We can use something like use params that allows us to be dynamic with what we're doing. So what does that mean? Let's say that I was here and I'm going to have a last component I'm going to make today is going to be hello. I say that and I probably won't. Okay. So if I say REFCE, now what I can do is, let's just take this and say, this is the hello page. And then I want to say hello to whatever name is being passed through. Now, I want our users to be able to put in a name and then maybe not put in, but basically navigate to a link or a URL that has a name. And then based off of that name, I want to do something with that, right? I want to handle that information. Way we're going to do it is we're saying we're going to create a route with a path, and we're going to say path hello. So let's go here. So I'm going to say route path equals, and then I'm going to say /hello/ and then I'm going to do this colon and name. Great. Now I want to go to my hello And this can be anything, this colon, anything. It is important to know what you name it, but this can be anything. If you wanted to call this cupcake, doesn't matter. I'm going to call this name because that's what we're doing. But I want them to be able to say localhost 3000 /hello/ and then some name. Again, I don't want to create a route for every possible name ever. I can just say, hey, this is dynamic. We're just expecting some value after here. And whenever we do that, let's go ahead and we're going to refer to whatever value they put as name. So if I'm looking at this, there's a couple things I need to kind of keep in mind here. We pass in this guy right here. Now in our actual component itself, we do have to bring it in. I think Nandor just put this. There's so many imports. Yes, now we're starting to be in the land of imports, right? So I'm going to say import, and I'm going to say use params. Now what use params is just a parameter within our query, right? This is our parameter within our query. So we need to do use params. Cool. Now we're going to bring in and say const city is use params, but we're not going to say city. This is where our naming convention comes in handy. So I'm gonna say const. Now this has to be the exact name that we used. So because we used name here, they need to match. So const name, name. And then now what I can do is I can say something like hello name. And it's dynamic. So whatever's being passed through, if it is Nandor or Tabitha or Teresa or Philip, doesn't matter. Whatever name's being passed through, we're just grabbing that information from our request, and then we're calling it and saying hello. So if I just come here and it says hello is not defined, LOL. Oh, I'm going to import hello from components. Hello. Perfect. Great. So if I say hello /gray, now we get, this is the hello page. Hello, gray. It goes in and it is expecting some piece of information after our /hello. And it's saying, great, that value, whatever this is, we're going to refer to it as name. So within my component, and I say, hey, you remember that value that we passed through? That's called name. Let's go ahead and grab that using use params. And then now I can do it as I can use it anywhere within my code. This is going to come in handy when we're dealing with IDs or wanting to go one specific product's page. This is how it works, right? They don't create a page for every product. They create a product page and they're able to pass in some unique identifier. So that way, whenever a user clicks on a link or clicks on something, they can then show that page. Same way. There is only, they just create a component that is able to do all of this, right? All they have to do is make this dynamic. So if somebody clicks on it, if you look at the bottom left, sorry, I can't make it larger, but this is just a link, right? To some login.codingdojo.com/m/some number. And so when it does that, it's got like a call to the database to get some information, but now we have that information, right? I'm able to go in and say, hey, this is gray, right? Or this is whatever. And I can do anything with this. Let's say I had a function that I wanted to say, you know, if this is name, so like, let's just try something. I'm just off the cuff here. So I'm going to say name equals gray. No, I don't want Grayson. But I'm going to do a little ternary. It says name equals gray. You say, hey, you're cool. That you're not great. So not as cool. So not as cool. Perfect. And so now it takes this information. I can do some sort of comparison, right? I can do anything that I want with it. And then now it should show, if I come here, hey, you're cool. But if I said Will, and I'm not doing this because Will just said that's messed up. For myself, But it says you're not gray, so not as cool. Right. And so now I just have access to that information. So same thing, if we're passing in some sort of ID or some sort of unique identifier, I can then go call my database and say, hey, get this piece of information, do whatever we need there. This is a really common idea with routing. So it's not just a React thing. It's just dynamic routing. It would be brutal if you did everything all in the same way, right? So if I go back to gray, hey, you're cool. So we can just get this. And again, remember just the way we did that is we brought in use params from a React router DOM. All of this, everything we've just talked about, use navigate. We've talked about use params. We've talked about browser router, routes, and route. All of that comes from that package we installed called React Router DOM. Now, if you don't add in those routes, or if you don't install React Router DOM, you don't have any of this functionality. So it is a really important package that we've installed. Somebody just said, can you also add color to params? I'm not quite sure what you mean there. So I'm sorry, I'm not quite understanding the question. I mean, you could always style it, right? Like in here, I could have some sort of style that says, hey, you're cool, whatever. But just wanted to show we can take that information and handle that.
Could you change the style? Like when you put in, like you did with gray, where it said, hey, you're cool. And then if you put in the other name, it says you're not cool. Or not so cool. Could you change the style using this?
You could change like you could say, if this is true, then you have some sort of like style. Just do some inline styling, right? That says something like color is, I don't know, blue. Color is blue
Needs to be quotes, I think.
is what?
Does it need to be in quotation marks?
Oh yeah,
The
maybe.
color?
Honestly, I don't do a ton of CSS, if I'm being blankly honest. More
Or
of the
you also need another brackets
around.
around the whole thing.
Oh yeah, okay. Thanks. See my weakness. I am not a CSS guy. Hence bootstrap, friends. There we go. So let's try this. Yep. Hey, you're cool. But if I say Paul is cool though. Your grace not as cool.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah, of course. So you can just do some inline styling if you wanted, or if it was like, red or something. Be like, oh no, you shouldn't have done this. You went to a page that doesn't work. Yeah, you could just do some inline styling. We could have changed, a background color. You can do anything you want to do in CSS as well. Cool. Any other questions?
So once we get to like working with servers,
Mhm.
would this be something where you pull the username, so gray, and then look that up in that user information in your server and apply that to your page?
Yeah, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to have this information. So in the same way that if I hover over any of these on the bottom left, you see some information.
Mhm.
That is just us making a request, and we're going to take that. So what we would do is just take that information. Let's say it was all of those pages or those backend, right? And then we're going to go into our database and grab the data that makes up this component. Right. So like here somewhere, this is all saved as a piece of data, right, in our database. And so we're going to go and we're going to grab all that information and show specifically that. And so it is our identifier to allow us to then make a request. Like if I wanted to say something like if I wanted to even use like a use effect. And then I wanted to do something like axios.get to let's do www.swappy API/people/ num. I think I gotta do it this way. Let's see. Dot then, dot catch. Let's finish that. Okay. So it doesn't know what Axios is. Let me import Axios from Axios. Let's bring in, I already brought in use effect. Okay. So even if I wanted to, in theory, if I passed in, if I had some route, and I'm not going to do it, but I'll show you just kind of high level. Let's say I had some route that was like Star Wars API, the Star Wars slash, and then they could put in any number. And it took me here. I could grab that information of what they did and inject that into my Axios call. And say, great, I want you to go to people 2. And it will go and it will grab that information. Yeah, I think it has to be like, you'd have a back tick.
Yeah, and put a dollar
You
sign.
need a dollar sign, just like this. So now what this would allow, and I guess we'll just do it real fast.
Are you
Is,
gonna put num
huh?
with name? Are you gonna put num with the name inside the constant?
Well, num is just, this is just an example, but yeah, I would, if I had a route that had,
Okay.
that brought in a number, then instead of name, it would be num, but just, I don't have a route because this is taking a name. Now this has to match. So if I had something like num, then this would look and say num is not defined. Great. So then let's go to, what did we say? Hello? I can say num.
Ah, yeah.
Perfect. And then now, whatever number is being passed through. Cool. So let's go see if this actually worked. So all I did was make an Axios request. And then it should have, oh, there's an Axios error, 404. Failed type. Bad request. Let's see, what did I do incorrect? Swabby.people.api. Num. Num. Axios.get.
The Axios error is just because that endpoint is invalid.
But one should be. Let's see. Maybe I just did that incorrect.
Yeah, but it's still, I think it's still got gray in front of it.
Shouldn't, right? It's just num.
You need the HTTPS.
No. Swappy.dev /API /people/1 should get me that.
I think you did have the gray in front of the one still in the browser.
So when I have it in the browser, it should then, I should still be able to, this is destructuring our params. Oh, I know why.
Still in-
Anybody have a thought on why?
You
Is it
destructure
because
wrong?
we need, oh. We need
No.
to say that a number is a number, not a string.
Yep. When this comes in, this is an important thing to note. When I pass something in here, it takes it in as a string. And so if I were to run this again, let's refresh. Here we get this as a string. Our Swappy API is expecting a type number. So I can look up type casting int JavaScript. And then I can say something like number. So let's see how to convert a string to JavaScript. Parse int string. Wish it was like Python. You could just do, let's try it.
I know in the reading, like in one of the router practice, it says like NaN, like not a number, true, or I forgot what it exactly says.
Let's try this.
Built-in JavaScript method where it'll return not a number, or not a method, but it'll return not a number if it's not a number and you're trying to use it as a number.
Let's see if no, this is not liking this.
Your num is set as a constant. You can't change it.
Oh, yeah, that's why. I think I can. And
I don't, when I did this, I don't think I casted my number into a integer. I think it still stayed as a string.
Yeah, that's a good point, because when we send the API request, it's still going to come across their
as a
API.
string. Yeah, that's a good point. So let's see. Actually, let's get.
You sure you don't need the HTTPS in the beginning?
You shouldn't.
Like, I don't have www dot on mine. I have HTTPS://.
Look at your routes real quick, Will.
Oh, yeah, it is. You're right. It's this. Because I have www.swappy. But if I go here, I put the www. This is the correct route. Whoever said that, thank you. So now, if I refresh, hey, it's gone. But now I make some sort of request and I got Luke Skywalker. But if I were to say something like 2, I make this request. Now I get C3PO. So this is a way that I can take in information. And again, I don't need to create a C3PO route. I don't need to create a X, Y, or Z. I just need to create one route that allows my users to search different things. And obviously we could do this as like a form and navigating, then taking the information from our form and navigating to this swappy, or to this home/hello/name/whatever. Like we can use these tools to make this dynamic to where we don't have to. And we're going to get a lot of practice with that when we bring everything together. Cool. Any questions?
I think that's really interesting how you destructured like that. Like I didn't expect you to like be able to put, gray or name and then still be able to do an API. Like it just, I don't know. I think it's cool, but no, I get it. Okay, sorry. I'm just like absorbing it all.
No, yeah, of course. Yeah, just remember this is creating basically 2 separate variables
Mhm.
that we're saying, hey, there's some parameters that are being passed through within our route. There's going to be one called name and one called num. Now remember, these are really important that they match this right here. Name and num. Right?
Got it.
And so it's
That
going to
could be
say, go ahead.
that could be like Pokemon or something, and you could like
Yeah,
have a number for the Pokemon.
So this could be Pokemon.
Okay.
And then within my route, I would say, hey, this would be Pokemon. I got a match. And then I could say something within that of like, here's a Pokemon or here's whatever.
Cool.
Yeah. And then just like Paul said, this is string interpolation, right? This is me taking some sort of variable, injecting it into a string. I got to use my little backticks for that, the curly boys and a $sign. And then I can just take whatever this value is, this num, I can just inject that here. So if I said 2, it's going to say people/2 or 4 or whatever we decide to choose there. Take this back for coding purposes. Okay. Any other questions, friends? And then the last thing I want to show you is just link. So I just realized I wanted to do that for you. Let's say we created a navbar .jsx to help me navigate, right? JSX. And it was just a REFCE. And it was just a bunch of, let's say, how does this do it? Let's say this P tag. So we've got let's do for Tabitha, let's do an H1. And within this, we're gonna say this link tool. Now you can sort of think about this again, kind of like an A tag. We need to bring it in from React Router DOM if we want to use it. So I'm gonna say import link from React Router DOM. And so within here, what I can do is I can say link to, and if I say slash, that's going to take me to the home page, right? Or maybe I want, another H1 that is to hello. Let's do a couple of these. Shaving cream. I'm just doing a bunch of H1s, but you would do like an unordered list, or you would actually have a nav bar. This is fine. And so now what we can do is I can actually put this here, right? In my, because I want this persistent. I want this everywhere. Here. So now if I come here and there's an error. Import nav bar.
Is it because it's outside of your browser router?
So I'm wondering. Yes, thank you. I had to go within my browser router, but now I've got all these different things, right? So I can go home and it's gonna take me home. Now it kind of looks bad because I have a bunch of H1s and then they're blocked, meaning that you can't have anything on the side of it. That's why it was asking for pipes. Right, so I could have put them all like a, I might just do that because it makes it look nicer. Yeah, there we go. Cool. So we've got home, we've got hello, which I don't have anything because we changed our route to hello name num. So I would have to change that in my link. Well, that's probably not a great one because you got to add in some stuff. But let's do this. Cool. If I want to go to shaving cream, I can now navigate there. If I want to go to pizza, unicorn, shaving cream, pizza, unicorn, home. So this is just using link to make the request. The way it works is you just bring in this tool or this element called link. You have to, again, comes from React Router DOM. We're getting a theme here. We say where we want it to go to. And so similar to use navigate, we were saying, I want you to now go here or make a request to this URL, right? And then we're going to call it home. So whenever somebody clicks on it, that's what we're doing. We close it up. And then now whenever somebody clicks on home or clicks on this link, it's going to navigate them here or to slash here and so on and so forth. So this is how a nav bar works, right? And just come here. Great. Whenever it's just like an A tag. You can kind of think about it like an A tag. Pizza, unicorn. So it allows us to do certain things if I want to go home, or if I want to go to a different page, I can do that just by doing this. And then it loads that component, right? If I click on unicorn, what it does is it says, cool. Where is unicorn? I want you to send me to unicorn. Great. Let's come here. Is this unicorn? Nope. Is this unicorn? Yep. Okay, great. What element do you want? Unicorn. Great. It goes, it gets that component, and then it loads that up, right? And it does whatever unicorn says. Great. This is what's being added in. So somebody asked, nope, it's just npm install React Router DOM. Regardless of what you're doing. So it's in here. Just this guy right here. So somebody said when deploying this project, the server will need React and DOM, etc., all installed. React Router DOM, yeah, it will. Because what we're going to do is we're actually going to have two different things. We're going to be running two different servers at the same time, one on 3,000, one on 8,000. And so then what we'll do is we'll make a request when something says, go, I want to go to this page. It's going to make a request, and then we're going to do an Axios call. So here's just a little bit of we're a little bit over time, but we're just going to do an Axios call to, let's actually head on one more and one more. Axios call to our HTTP localhost 8000 / and then whatever route we've set up. And it will get some piece of information back and we will use it. So that's how it's all going to work, right? We're going to have 2 servers. We're using Axios requests because they have to communicate. So we go back and forth with information. And then our server can do whatever it needs. If it gets some sort of value, it can kind of build it. And if, this is what we're going to be going over the next couple of days. We take in some value. If I need to call my database, if I need to do something else, it'll have all my methods and my routes set up. Somebody said, why, when you install npm react router DOM, is there 6 vulnerabilities? I think there's 6, even if I don't install it. Like when I just installed npm, it was that. I don't know. This isn't showing up anymore, but if I just said npm install, then it does that. Yeah, thanks, Paul. npx creates the entire ecosystem of React. npm is just installs separate packages if we want. Okay. Any questions, any thoughts, feelings, emotions towards routing, links, use navigate, and dynamic routing? Use params. Do we hate it? Do we love it? Is this confusing? Because you put a 1 in the chat if this makes sense. You guys are quiet. A lot of importing. Yep, lots of imports. Cool. Yeah, again, I know that I just went through this like speed round yesterday. So I wanted to make sure that we had plenty of time. That way you guys understood, okay, this is routing. Now, one thing to note though, is if I've got, this is just my last thing and then I'm done, I promise. You got to be careful with this dynamic routing, because if you've got something like, let's say route path, hello, element, hello, but I want it to say, oh, I would like it if it said hello, and then I want them to be able to put in some number, right? Though they look different, React does not know the difference. So what it will do is it will find the first route that matches the pattern that you've set, where you're saying hello and then expecting just some value. So if you want it to be name, you're going to have to do something separate or do something different. So be aware of that. What I mean is if I go into, if I were to go into this and I would say hello / Will, it doesn't know what a name versus a number is because it's a computer, right? It's just going to say, oh, you're expecting Will or hello / some value. Okay, great. Good to go. Because it goes top to bottom, right? It checks, is this it? No. Is this it? No. Is this it? No. Is this it? No. The first one it does find says, okay, great. This is what they must have said, because it matches the pattern. It says hello / and then some value after. Cool. So if you've got something like this, you would want to change it up in a way that you could say hello, if you wanted to say fave num / number. Right, you would want to set up your route differently so that way, or make them unique. Like have your base and then build off of that, because now it won't see this. But whichever one is first, like higher up on the order, that's the one it will read. So I just wanted to make sure that you guys are aware of that. So again, if I just had it like this, it's going to go from the top to bottom. It's going to find this one matches the pattern first. So it's never going to read this path ever. So just be aware of that. Okay. Any more questions? I'm glad that this is sinking in. I'm glad that this is making sense. We are officially, friends, done with the front end. We've done everything we need for the front end work. So give yourselves a pat on the back. It has been 4 grueling weeks. Hopefully it's been enjoyable and you guys like React and it's not been brutal, but we've had 4 weeks, right? And we're done with the front end. Tomorrow, we're going to introduce Express and kind of what that looks like. So if you guys want to read ahead, we've already talked about Postman, but we're going to talk about Express. We're going to talk about HTTP verbs. Here they are. It's a great thing to know. Really important piece of information. Using Express in NodeMon. Now, this does encourage you to download globally. It allows you to, or it says to download NodeMon. Since NPM or since node 18. So if you have node 18 or higher, you can actually just say -- watch. You don't have to download NodeMon, but up to you. We'll talk about what NodeMon is tomorrow. And then we're going to talk about our folder structure. So tomorrow will seem like a lot. We're going to go through it, but we have plenty of time. Usually people freak out about the back end, and then we go over it and drill it to where the back end's the easy part. So if you guys can understand what we did today and sort of the culmination of everything we've done, you guys are going to be A-okay. And we'll keep, again, we're going to keep hammering and keep doing certain things to make sure you guys are prepared. So cool. That's all I've got for today. Sorry we went a little bit over. Just want to make sure you guys really understood routing, because it is an important tool, an important thing for us to know. So that's all I've got. Other than that, I hope you guys have a wonderful night, and I'll stick around for just a quick second, and then I'll get the recording up. I'm gonna stop the
Thanks,
recording.
Paul and Gray. This was a great